Chapter 21. Memory Lane. I never craved attention until I tasted yours. Atsumu. Kyumi whispers and Atsumu doesn't like the sound of it. We need to stop. If there was one thing Atsumu was utterly sure of today, it was that he would convince Kyumi to finally break free from his shackles and live a full life with him in Osaka, to make a fresh start. Hell, he would refuse to go home if he couldn't finally convince Kyumi that yes, it does make sense between them and yes, Atsumu would do anything and literally everything, without exception, to protect him. It was set in stone. Really, Atsumu was sure he could convince Kyumi as soon as he reminded him of what their relationship is. But now Atsumu himself isn't so sure anymore what it actually is. He knows Kyumi's mind is at war with his heart. It's always been. His body longs for Atsumu's presence but his mind screams for him to stay away. The hands of a killer spare him even though he has every reason to kill the culprit. Cat and mouse. Yet kitten licks soothe the mouse's wounds. Like fire and gasoline. Always keeping the light aflame. To be honest, Kyumi's heart has always been stronger than his mind. But ever since he saved Atsumu from the brink of death, things have changed and Atsumu isn't sure if Kyumi's mind hasn't taken over by now. Because it never ends well if they're together. It never ends well if they give in to their feelings. They both should have learned it by now. Would Atsumu be able to make Kyumi listen to his heart again? He doesn't know. Kyumi holds him close, their breaths mingling in the narrow space between them. Their lips are nearly touching. And for a moment, the world outside seems to blur, leaving only the intense pull between them. Atsumu's eyes search Kyumi's face, desperate for answers. For a sign of the feelings he knows Kyumi is fighting to keep hidden and he fails because Atsumu is able to see it. That flicker of emotion in his eyes. That contradiction in Kyumi's heart. The conflict raging in Kyumi's mind. It's all there, open, just for Atsumu to see. Atsumu, this. Kyumi clenches his jaw. You know this doesn't make sense. You should leave. But he's a fool. No, because the grip on Atsumu's hip is way too strong. Leave. Atsumu pulls away and Kyumi frowns hard. Atsumu looks at him with this strong intensity burning in his eyes. But Kyumi can't even meet his gaze. Hell, he doesn't want to let him go. Yet he tells Atsumu to do exactly that. Why? Why doesn't he finally give in? You can't just push me away and pretend none of this matters. Yes, I can. This doesn't affect just why. It doesn't matter. Kyumi snaps, his voice harsher than he intends. Atsumu is immediately quiet, staring at Kyumi with wide eyes, the shock evident on his face, his heart daring to burst inside his chest. Then, Kyumi sighs and continues more quietly. This is nothing. We are nothing. But Atsumu has had enough of this shit. Yeah. The words hit him like a fucking physical blow. And for a moment, he is utterly speechless. Hurt and confusion wrap Atsumu in. And he searches Kyumi's face, looking for any sign that he doesn't mean what he's saying. But all he sees is the wall Kyumi has put up between them. Strong and huge and seemingly impossible to break through. But there is this crack. A tiny one. And Atsumu can see that Kyumi's heart aches. He knows Kyumi didn't mean to lash out. But the desperate need to protect Atsumu has twisted his words into something cruel, cementing the walls around his heart even more and Atsumu knows. He really knows. Kyumi is pushing him away to protect him. Atsumu knows. But he has never been the one to let rationality win over his emotions. If this is nothing, Atsumu grits out, then what was that kiss? Kyumi? Kyumi tries to look away, but Atsumu grabs him by his collar and forces him to stay. If this is nothing, Atsumu continues, his voice rising with each word and frustration bubbling up inside him. Then why do you hold me like this? Why do you kiss me like that? Why do you fucking care so damn much? His gaze shifts down, and he watches the way Kyumi's muscles clench and relax at his throat. Then, Atsumu forces his gaze back to burn in Kyumi's hot coals and he takes a shaky breath. The anger and hurt in his own eyes burning brighter. If this is nothing, then why the fuck do you keep pushing me away? Why do you keep lying to me? Why do you keep lying to yourself? Kyumi's eyes widen, his own emotions boiling just beneath the surface. Atsumu's words cut deep and slice through the facade he's trying so hard to maintain. He clenches his jaw and his hands tremble as he tries to keep his resolve. But he wavers. Atsumu sees it. Sees it all. You don't understand. Atsumu. His voice is small. You never do. Just. Then tell me. Atsumu shouts, his voice cracking. What do I not understand? Fuck. Just tell me. Kyumi's resolve falters for a moment because Atsumu knows the vulnerability in his own voice pierces through Kyumi's defenses and wrings his heart in a way that'll make it bleed just like Atsumu's does. Atsumu can see that Kyumi wants to pull him close, to hold him and never let go. But in the end, he never does. Not if that's his fucking definition of keeping him safe. Kyumi's eyes narrow, his fists clenched at his sides. his body tense as his own frustration grows. Maybe he wants to protect Atsumu, to keep him safe from the hell that Ashijima and his men might bring. But that is no longer an option when it means that Kyumi is sacrificing himself. Atsumu has had enough. Atsumu isn't scared of what awaits him. He would dash out right here and now without blinking an eye and paint the damn city of Tokyo red if it meant finally getting Kyumi out of this hole. It took Ashijima 11 years to get what he wanted. 11 damn years of using Kyumi however he pleased, taking advantage of his situation, even going so far as to kill a part of his family. Why the hell is Kyumi still holding on to him? Why doesn't he feel the same burning desire to see Ashijima gone as Atsumu does? Or is it cause you still have feelings for Wakatoshi? The slap comes before Atsumu can even process the movement. Kyumi's hand connects with Atsumu's cheek. Not hard enough to hurt seriously but definitely hard enough to let it sting. It's more emotional than physical pain. Atsumu knows Kyumi has held back. Still, for a dreading moment, it takes his breath away. They stand in stunned silence and Atsumu's gaze shifts down to the floor. Unable to hold Kyumi's gaze any longer, that has now filled with a raw unfiltered hurt. Atsumu has never seen it before. Kyumi stares at him with wide, shocked eyes, and the pain in them is undeniable. Words seem to fail him. Atsumu swallows hard. The regret for provoking Kyumi so harshly is evident on his face, but he believes it was the only way to make him see the truth. Staying with Ashijima is tearing Kyumi apart, is tearing them apart, and Atsumu needs him to understand that. Fine. Atsumu whispers, his voice barely audible. He lifts his gaze from the floor to meet Kyumi's eyes once more, his own stinging with unshed tears, and he feels sick. So incredibly sick. Atsumu's chest feels tight, the pain threatening to spill over, but he holds it back, holds it in. Can't afford to lose his composure right now. Atsumu leans in close, never touches Kyumi, only his breath is warm against Kyumi's ear, and then, he says it, "I'll fuck off," just like Kyumi wanted. Atsumu pulls away and his heart shatters with every step he takes. He doesn't look back as he leaves, grabbing his jacket as he goes and slamming the door shut behind him, probably startling the man that he loves. Once outside, he crashes his back against it, releasing a deep, shaky breath. Atsumu presses his hands against his forehead and tries to steady himself before running them desperately through his hair. For a moment, he just stands there, fighting the urge to break down until he finally pushes himself off the door and leaves, each step feeling heavier than the last. This needs to stop. But how can something stop that never started to begin with? The pebbles crunch softly under Atsumu's feet as he sets foot in front of an ancient torii gate at the borders of Inarizaki, its weathered wood standing sentinel at the threshold of the sacred ground beyond. He glances down the path where steps led through a dense bamboo forest to a Shinto shrine, dimly lit by lanterns left and right. The evening sun dips low, painting the sky in rich hues of crimson and gold that stretch to the edge of the horizon, and Atsumu's gaze fixes upon the figure ahead. In the distance, Kita stands before the temple entrance, sweeping away dust and dirt with movements as graceful as they were deliberate, his silhouette framed by the fading light, his hakama and hori billow gently in the breeze, a sight that evokes memories of a past that was gentler to them than the times are now. Atsumu recalls the days of training, when Kita honed their skills and taught them the art of wielding a blade with perfection. The temple had been a sanctuary then, a place where they sought solace amidst the chaos of their lives. Memories of their mother flood Atsumu's mind. He still feels her presence among the tranquil surroundings. Together with Osamu, they would tie paper wishes to the cherry tree standing proudly before the memorial, thanking the gods that fate had been kind to them. Now their mother is among them, her ashes resting in an urn between hibiscus and gladioli, and Atsumu wonders if fate isn't rather laughing at them. Atsumu sighs. It's been a while since he was last here. Taking a deep breath, he forces his body to move, so the soft crunch of gravel beneath his feet echoes in the stillness. It's been way too long since he last walked these sacred grounds, and his return is fraught with both nostalgia and apprehension. But there is no turning back now. Each step brings him closer to the inevitable confrontation that awaits. He's made up his mind for a while now, and there's no one and nothing to stop him. He knows that this is the only right thing to do, that it's the only right way to make him feel alive again, that it's everything he needs to finally break free from the shackles that bind him to this inner borderless void. Took you a while to come back, Kita says, not chancing Atsumu a glance. Focused on the task at hand, he waits for Atsumu to answer, but all Atsumu can do is stare intently at the swirling dust and wish he could take its place so he could vanish into the wind without any consequences to fear. Atsumu's heart is lodged in his throat. It's beat so hard that he's unable to speak. Come on, Kita says, sensing Atsumu's discomfort. He leans the broom against the railing and tilts his head toward the memorial. Let's see your mother first, then we can talk. Wordlessly, Atsumu complies. Kita and Atsumu stand in solemn silence before the urn that holds the ashes of Atsumu's mother, the flowers blooming in vibrant colors on either side. In the center, bathed in the warm glow of the evening sun, stands a framed photograph. The image captures a moment of pure joy. Mamma Mia with her boys, all three laughing heartily, each twin held tightly in her loving embrace. She adored you both, you know. Kita breaks the silence. His voice is soft and reflective. Every time she spoke about Cha, her eyes lit up with pride and love. Atsumu's gaze remains fixed on the photograph, a bittersweet smile tugging at his lips, but the words are stuck in his throat. The breeze rustles the leaves, carrying with it the faint scent of the flowers, and for a moment, just for a damn moment, Atsumu closes his eyes because in his mind he is back there. Back when he was 16. Back when his mother used to ruffle his hair and tell him to stop being a prick to Osamu. Back when they would lay down on their couch, both twins in her arm, Osamu asleep and Atsumu staring into golden eyes that mirror his own, that have always been so warm. Yeah, so full of love. My sweet boy, fate will be good to ya. If she only knew what kind of shit her sons were getting themselves into. I miss her, Atsumu says softly, suppressing the shudder that was trying to follow his breath out of his lungs. Kita nods slightly, his eyes also still lingering on the photograph. I know you do. The silence stretches between them, but it doesn't feel weird. If there's one person Atsumu can unconditionally enjoy a moment of peace with, it's Kita. Kita, who has been there for Atsumu and Osamu over and over again. Kita, to whom they could entrust everything, who always took care of the twins. Kita, who only ever wanted the best for them. Well, so why? She knew things weren't always easy for you, and that's probably why she wanted to give you a better life. Kita says, breaking the silence once more. Everything she did it for you. Yeah. Atsumu breathes, his voice almost a whisper. I know. He turns to Kita and catches a glimpse of his smile, but it fades quickly when Kita actually looks at Atsumu. His expression shifts to one of confusion, worry carving lines into his frown. He takes a step forward and gently takes Atsumu's face in his hands. Then, with an intense look, he stares at Atsumu's lip. What happened there? Atsumu tries to press his lips together, but the pain forces a hiss out of him. Had to talk to someone who's been kinda hard to reach lately. Kita keeps staring at the bruise, his brow furrowed in concern. His fingers lightly trace the edge of the injury, as if trying to assess the damage. Then, he mumbles absent-mindedly, I see. He knows, because he always does. Back then and right now. Another quiet moment stretches between them as Kita continues to study Atsumu intently. The scrutiny doesn't make Atsumu uncomfortable, but it stirs his emotions in a very odd way. The concern in Kita's eyes, the gentle touch, the weight of too many unspoken words, it all blends together and creates a tension that Atsumu can't quite place. It's as if he is at Kita's mercy, unable to hide anything from him, not his pain, nor his true intentions. And yet, at the same time, Kita seems somewhat fazed by Atsumu's actions. There's a hint of surprise in Kita's behavior, as if he's taken aback. It's not that he misjudged Atsumu himself, no, but rather he begins to realize the depth of what certain feelings can drive Atsumu to do, how far he's willing to go to. It is only when Kita's gaze becomes too intense that Atsumu decides to speak up and break the silence one last time, to voice the obvious before Kita himself starts to realize that as well. Or maybe he already has the moment he laid his eyes on Atsumu's bruised lip. Kita-san, can I ask you something? Of course. Kita replies, his voice steady and reassuring. Atsumu hesitates, his thoughts swirling as he considers how to broach the subject delicately. He feels the urge to skirt around the issue, to dance around the topic rather than confront it head on. Yet, deep down, he knows that he can't evade it any longer. Deep down, he knows he should address this directly if he wants to come to terms with everything before he decides to take his final move. Taking a deep breath, he steels himself and speaks up. Back when I returned to Inarizaki while searching for Samu, you knew who Kayumi was, didn't Cha? Kita doesn't waver. His expression remains unchanged. His gaze moves from Atsumu's lip to an empty spot between them, then shifts back to the molten gold in Atsumu's eyes, and slowly, oh so slowly, he lets go of Atsumu's cheeks and it stings in a way, the coldness slapping against Atsumu's skin. The silence between them feels heavier now, the anxious knot in Atsumu's stomach tightening with every second that passes unspoken. If Kita knew all this time, why did he only warn Kayumi but never Atsumu himself? Yes, Kita finally admits, his tone calm yet serious. It feels like a punch to his gut, to his face, to literally anywhere on his goddamn body. I knew who SakuAtsu was. Atsumu's heart pounds in his chest and for a moment he just stands there and stares at Kita as he absorbs his words. It's funny because he's starting to feel a little numb. Not much, but enough to let his skin tickle unpleasantly. Oh, and he feels kind of sick too. Again, not much, just a little, but it's enough to make his voice quiver. Why didn't Cha tell me? It's a whisper, soft, quiet. Why did you tell Kayumi that he could have anyone but me? Why did you never tell me who he really was? Why did you of all people people have to hide this from me? Kita-san, shit. Why? Cause you were already too emotionally involved. What? Because I wanted to protect you. Atsumu. And there it is again. The things people do just to protect him. Huh? Atsumu is so sick of it. I know the look you're giving Sakusa. Atsumu. It's the same look Samu gave me. You don't have what it takes to satisfy him. You're only a distraction. Atsumu. What do you want from me? Atsumu snaps his eyes shut and takes a deep breath. It seems like everyone warned him, but Atsumu chose to ignore all the signs and let himself give in to his feelings for Kyumi even though he never should have. Out of spite, out of curiosity, just because that damn man has put him under his spell. Atsumu doesn't understand anything anymore. Kita wanted to protect him, from what? His own feelings? Do I need to remind you how that ended with your own mother, getting involved with fucking Yakuza? Atsumu opens his eyes and furrows his brow. You will end up like her. What the fuck does that mean? Kita sighs and steps back. He looks up at the sky for a moment, as if seeking some kind of guidance, then meets Atsumu's gaze again, and to be honest, Atsumu's feelings are all over the place. He knows he should be angry, but mostly he's just confused. He feels a bit betrayed, not understanding why Kita never told him who Kyumi really was, and what the hell does Kita mean by saying he was too emotionally involved? Back when they were in Inarizaki, Suna had hinted at it too, but how could they have known? Saying he was giving Kyumi some sort of look only a fool in love would do. Fucking hell. Atsumu thought at least back then it was just a stupid crush. Just him thirsting over some hot guy he couldn't have. How could they have known about his feelings for Kyumi before he even figured them out himself? Atsumu. Kita derails his train of thought, his voice steady and serious. He frowns, a deep line forming between his brows. There's something your mother confided in me a long time ago. It's time you knew. Atsumu's confusion deepens, his frown mirroring Kita's. He stares at him, eyes wide and questioning. What could his mother have possibly told Kita that he didn't already know? His mind races while he tries to piece together any hint or memory that might explain Kita's words. You're here cause you wanna tell me that you and Osamu will leave Inarizaki as soon as the matter with Daisho is resolved, right? Atsumu hesitates for a moment, searching Kita's eyes for any hint of an explanation, but Kita's expression remains unreadable. Atsumu nods wordlessly. But that's not all, is it? Oikawa. Atsumu says, I'll back him up in toppling a Shijima from his throne. That way he can reclaim Seijo, and the Ŝweden will fall apart. What do you hope to gain from this? Kita's eyes narrow slightly. Atsumu's heart pounds in his chest. Once we remove Daisho and Ashijima from the equation, we'll divide up the territories among smaller organizations that are currently working for the Ŝweden anyway, so they can operate on their own again. Atsumu sighs deeply. You know as well as I do that sooner or later there will be more and more people who will rebel against him. Ashijima may have managed to keep his henchmen together so far, but if he takes over any more territories, it will eventually end in chaos. Not as long as he has Tendo and Kyumi. But Atsumu doesn't plan to let that happen. If he doesn't step in now to help Oikawa, then Ashijima will eventually hold sole power over Japan, and that could actually become a real fucking problem. This isn't just about Kyumi anymore. He's merely a pawn in Ashijima's sick game. No. This is about everyone's future. Kind of ironic that Motoa, of all people, had to point this out to Atsumu. So, that's two of the big three Yakuza sidelined. What's Oikawa's endgame? Is he aiming for a monopoly? Atsumu shakes his head. Oikawa regains control of his turf, and in return, he'll give up all his other territories. Or at least that's what we wanna convince him of. We. Kita prompts. Samu. Rin. Me. Atsumu swallows hard. Komori. A flicker of surprise crosses Kita's face, causing Atsumu's stomach to twist with unease. He can almost hear the gears turning in Kita's mind, processing the implications of their alliance with former foes. First, there was his forbidden love for Kyumi, a man working for Yakuza, the very people so despised by Inarizaki, and now, an alliance with his cousin, the man Atsumu was once ordered to kill. It's pathetic. He is pathetic. As Atsumu waits for Kita's response, he wrestles with a peculiar mix of emotions. It's not exactly guilt that nags at his conscience, but rather a gnawing sense of apprehension. And even though he knows that Kita has secrets of his own that might upset Atsumu in some way or another, he can't shake the feeling that he himself is also about to disappoint Kita with what he wants to say. And fuck, that actually makes him feel like shit, because he doesn't want that. He never did. Kita has always been important to him precisely because he is the closest thing to what Atsumu would actually count as family. Kita never told Atsumu who Kyumi was because he wanted to protect him, and Atsumu is sure that Kita will tell him exactly what he wanted to protect him from. What was it that his mother entrusted to Kita? Are these things connected to each other? It can't be. Kita's gaze softens and a small wave of relief washes over Atsumu. The warmth in his eyes is unmistakable, illuminated by the gentle sunlight filtering through the branches above. I see. Kita finally replies, his voice carrying a softness that soothes Atsumu's frayed nerves. Atsumu is acutely aware of the gravity of the moment, the significance of what he's revealing. He's laying bare their plans, their hopes for a future that could be free of the suffocating power of the big three Yakuza. There's a sense of vulnerability in admitting their ambitions, but also a flicker of hope. Their strategy is simple yet ambitious. Take them down and make sure they won't hold power in the future like they do now. Daisho's fall is certain. Once he dares to attack Inarizaki, he'll be stepping into untouched territory, doing things no one before him has ever dared to do. He'll pay for that. Will feel the wrath of Inarizaki's assassins, especially for what he did to Osamu. And if the Kumicho doesn't die at the hands of Atsumu's brother, then it will be at the hands of Rin. That's for sure. Because his blood has certainly never stopped seething ever since Osamu disappeared. It's like a silent promise. His duty. Atsumu saw it in his eyes. A Shijima needs to be gone for the sake of everyone in and outside his territories. The guy's too greedy, too obsessed with grabbing more power regardless of the sacrifices he needs to make. So, before things get any worse, they have to take him down. Some of his own people are already unhappy as it is, and Atsumu can't even imagine the chaos if a Shijima takes over more territories just to keep his men in check. Oikawa is their damn wild card here. Atsumu can only hope they can convince him to give up everything he's worked for if it means getting back 𝒒𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒔. His main goal after all. They need Oikawa to cooperate, not act like an asshole and try to take over everything, just like Kita feared. Because if there's one thing Atsumu is sure of, it's that they have to reduce the power of the big three Yakuza. It's like Komori said, they need to bring balance back to this world. That starts with ending the growing autocracy, making sure everyone is on equal footing to avoid conflicts and restore justice. And by everyone, they mean literally everyone, not just Daisho, a Shijima, and Oikawa. No, every single person that is working for them, every single one in and outside the Yakuza. And, you know, Atsumu has no problem with killing a Shijima or Daisho because there's no way they would agree to that. But shit, he lost his heart to Oikawa and his gang, and he doesn't even want to imagine what could happen if Oikawa doesn't cooperate. So now he kind of has to convince him, right? It's the only thing he has left if he wants to save his friends. Friends. Huh? Funny how a while ago, Atsumu couldn't have imagined calling anyone from Yakuza a friend. Atsumu. Kita begins carefully, his eyes flickering with something akin to concern. Yeah, mother had the same vision. She wanted to bring down the big Yakuza, just like you do now. Atsumu's eyes widen in surprise, then he furrows his brows in confusion, trying to grasp the full meaning of Kita's words. Kita holds his gaze. She and Yer father were determined to end the reign of the big Yakuza organizations. When she became pregnant with Yu and Osamu, her resolve only strengthened. She wanted a world where her boys could grow up without the shadow of Yakuza looming over Yer both. Atsumu feels a lump forming in his throat, his heart pounding so hard at the revelation that it almost hurts, and his stomach churning in an odd way as he processes Kita's words. He knew this side of his mother, the fierce determination that burned within her. Atsumu had always admired that about her, and he was sure he'd inherited that trait, but he never imagined she had a plan this grand, this dangerous. She saw the bigger picture, understanding that the real problem was the drastic imbalance in their world, not just the surface level conflicts between Yakuza and assassins. She fucking knew all along. What happened? Atsumu finally asks, his voice unsteady. Kita's expression darkens. Before you and Samu were born, someone from Yer father's organization caught wind of their plans. They saw it as a betrayal, as a threat to their power, so they did what they had to do. Kita clenches his jaw. Yer father was killed, and Yer mother fled back to Inarizaki. She hoped to find safety, but she never gave up on her dream. Their dream. Atsumu swallows hard. His mother had been a fighter, just like him, sacrificing herself for those she loved. Oh. Fuck. This sounds a little too familiar, doesn't it? 16 years later, she saw the same turmoil between the big three that we're seeing now, and she knew things were getting out of control. Nahibi's growing influence, the uproar in Tokyo with the Schweden Adlers, and the divided state of Miyagi. She sensed it all. The situation in Miyagi is particularly troubling for Atsumu because he sees how this is still an issue today. Oikawa might control most of Miyagi, but then there's 𝒒𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒕𝒔 or Shiratori's, and it always leads to problems. This fragmented control and unity within Miyagi is a constant source of unrest and conflict. It means that Aoba Josei's influence is limited, leading to power struggles and instability that make any precarious situation even more volatile. She knew that balance was slipping away. Kita continues. Rumors were spreading that assassins were gaining more and more power, but the exact opposite was happening. She watched as one Yakuza after another crushed independent assassins, Kita sighs. Honestly, we were lucky Inarizaki and Itachi managed to hold their ground. And then we had that situation in Tokyo. A large Yakuza organization next to the most powerful group of assassins. It was a powder keg waiting to explode. The downfall of Itachi. And shortly after, the Sweden Adlers must have been on the verge of crumbling as well. Ikuo mentioned that Ashijima's mother was killed when he was what? 19? Was it because of her good relationship with Itachi? Did people hold that against her? Do people resent Ashijima now that he has brought Kayumi on board? Atsumu doesn't like this. His mind races as he pieces together the fragments of his mother's past and the present chaos. Kita-san. He gulps, realizing what all of this could mean. What really happened the day Mum died? Kita sighs and his gaze is distant, as if he's seeing the past unfold before him. The pain of the memory is evident in his eyes and Atsumu's breath catches in his throat. What the hell happened? Yeah, mother, he begins. She met me right here at this shrine. Back then, my grandma was still the head of Inarizaki, but her health was failing more and more, so I gradually took over all the things she did. Yeah, mother asked me to promise that I'd take care of you and Osamu. Make sure you had a good life. Atsumu's heart clenches. He mourns his mother deeply and feels a pang of guilt for giving Kita such a hard time these past months. If there's one thing Kita had made possible, it was his mother's last wish for her sons to have a good life. Atsumu realizes that his current plan might make Kita feel like he hadn't fulfilled that wish. But that's not true. He would scrap the plan if it would soothe Kita's mind. But Atsumu also believes that going through with this might just be contributing to his mother's bigger goal. And maybe she never wanted her boys to have to face such danger. But she would have approved of it if it meant that everyone would have a better life once the plan was done. And it does. Because it makes a life with Kayumi possible and that's everything Atsumu needs. Yeah, mother. She split off from Inarizaki that day. Kita says, she believed that taking down Nahibi was the biggest threat to creating a safer world. Her plan was to kill the current, as well as the future Kumicho Daisho's big sister. Atsumu feels a cold shiver run down his spine. She was able to kill the daughter of the former Kumicho. Kita says, his voice tightening, but she only managed to wound the Kumicho himself. So, in the chaos, she lost her own life. Atsumu's stomach churns at the revelation, and his heart beats painfully in his chest. He feels sick, incredibly so, but he knows that his mother knew all the risks. The strange feeling inside him doesn't stem from wondering why no one stopped her, because Atsumu knows for a fact that Kita did that back then, and for another that no one could have stopped her anyway, just as no one can stop Atsumu today. No, that's not what the strange feeling is about. Rather, it's what the consequences to her actions might mean today. Atsumu knows that Daisho took advantage of the situation during the mission involving Komori because he thought he would gain more power by breaking one of the twins and gaining power over Inarizaki. But now he wonders if it was much more than that. What if it was revenge? If Daisho dares to attack Inarizaki, he's as good as dead. I'll see to that myself. Kita's voice cuts through Atsumu's spiraling thoughts. Now that we know Daisho was behind Osamu's kidnapping, I've been planning how to take him down. Him making the first move and stepping into our territory just gives us the upper hand. Atsumu feels a small measure of relief hearing Kita's determination. Knowing that he has a plan and is prepared to protect Inarizaki reassures him. It's a weight off his shoulders. Confirmation that Inarizaki doesn't need him to defend itself. And yes, this was a crucial concern he needed resolved before fully committing to leave Inarizaki and helping Ikuo get 𝒒𝒒 back. Kita's unwavering resolve is a stark reminder of the strength and unity within Inarizaki, a strength that his mother had trusted and counted on. Atsumu takes a deep breath, the knot in his stomach easing slightly. He looks at Kita with gratitude and resolve reflected in his eyes. Kita-san, Atsumu says, frowning. I know you told me this cause you're worried about me, but I'm not gonna back down. It's time to put mom's plan into action. Atsumu holds Kita's gaze and adds, it's time to restore the balance. Kita takes a deep breath and knits his brows together as he turns his gaze away. Atsumu knows what's coming while watching Kita pondering his words. He will try to stop him, fearing that something might happen, fearing that Atsumu might meet the same fate as his mother. And Atsumu knows this is something Kita could never forgive himself for. Knows that this is nothing that he wants. Kita-san. Atsumu's calm voice draws Kita's gaze back to him. I won't die. Kita's eyes soften and a faint, pained smile tugs at his lips. Yeah, mother said the same thing. Yeah, Atsumu says. But mum and dad were alone. He smiles faintly, determination shining in his eyes. I am not. Atsumu's heart aches as he sees the conflict in Kita's eyes. The older man nods solemnly, acknowledging the truth in Atsumu's words. Atsumu, I've watched you grow up, and I see so much of your mother in you. Her strength, her determination, and her stubbornness. I couldn't protect her, but I can try to protect you. That's why I've been keeping things from you, to keep you safe. I can have anyone but you. Because Kita was scared history might repeat itself. What if it does? I did my best to honor her wish, to give you both a good life. But if you're set on this path, You need to know what you're up against. You know as much as I do how ruthless this world really is. Yeah. Atsumu swallows hard. I know. Kita nods slowly, respect and sadness mingling in his eyes. He steps toward Atsumu and gently takes his face in his hand. Atsumu instinctively grabs Kita's hand and presses it a little further against his cheek, seeking comfort in the touch. Just promise me one thing, Atsumu, Kita says, his voice filled with genuine concern. Be careful out there. I don't want to lose you too. Don't worry about me, Kita-san. Atsumu closes his eyes and takes a deep breath to ground himself. Then, he pulls Kita into a tight embrace, his arms wrapping around him with a sense of finality. Kita responds in kind, returning the hug with equal intensity. The decision is made. Atsumu will leave in Arizaki forever. Thanks for everything, Atsumu murmurs softly and his voice is sad-filled with gratitude. Kita smiles warmly, his eyes reflecting the depth of their bond, and squeezes him even tighter. You know that I would always worry about you. Atsumu comes to a halt and takes a deep breath. It's been a while since he last felt Sendai's air filling his lungs. He checks his phone and hums with satisfaction as he sees an expected text message popping up on his screen. Komori's already waiting for us, he announces. Once again, he stands in front of the two imposing skyscrapers that carry Oikawa's office, the dark windows looming ominously above. This time, Osamu and Suna are with him, both taking in the sight with wide eyes. Osamu scrunches his face in distaste, while Suna shoves his hands into his pants pockets and clicks his tongue, staring up at the building with a now bored expression. Man, this place screams trouble, Osamu mutters, his face contorted in a mix of awe and disdain. Suna nods, a sneer on his lips. Oikawa doesn't even bother to hide it, does he? What a prick. Atsumu chuckles, his confidence unwavering. He's somewhat amused, knowing they're voicing the exact same thoughts he had when he first stood in front of these buildings. It's almost like deja vu, and the irony isn't lost on him. He's a good guy. You'll see. See Monday. Osamu huffs a laugh. Yeah, as if. Atsumu knows exactly what his brother is thinking. They enter the building and notice the sleek and modern lobby buzzing with activity. Atsumu strides confidently towards the elevator with Osamu and Suna following closely behind, taking in every single thing around them. It feels just as familiar as it did back then. It's almost as if Atsumu had never been away. Reaching the top floor, the elevator doors slide open to reveal the narrow hallway with its sleek black marble floor, illuminated by the faint daylight filtering in from the floor-to-ceiling windows. The corridor, long familiar to Atsumu, carries an air of both elegance and menace, a stark reminder of the power and danger that lie beyond the doors ahead. Atsumu glances at them and swallows hard. He leads the way, his footsteps echoing softly as they approach the double doors to the left, stopping in front of them while his gaze remains fixed on the door straight ahead. It's unsettling to realize how close he had been to Komori all this time, motionless just a few meters away from him. Thankfully, Atsumu never knew that. Just before entering, Atsumu pauses and takes another deep breath to steel himself for what's to come, and then he turns the handle and pushes the door open. And be too hard on. Oh. Oikawa's voice cuts off mid-sentence as he spots Atsumu. All eyes turn toward the newcomers, and Atsumu feels like a lost boy coming back home. He scans the room, his eyes landing on familiar faces. Shit. Dare he say he's missed them? Hinata, Bakuto, and Komori are grinning widely, their energy palpable, almost infectious. Komori shoots him that obnoxious smug smirk that makes Atsumu actually want to punch him. Hinata's eyes sparkle with excitement, and Bakuto's broad smile lights up the room. Iwaizumi has his beefy arms crossed in front of his chest, exuding a quiet confidence, and smirks as if he knows Atsumu has to stop himself from starting to drool. The way Iwaizumi's muscles strain against his shirt doesn't really fucking help to not think anything lewd and only adds to the intimidating aura that Iwaizumi carries oh so fucking effortlessly. Crick. Hot crick. Atsumu tears his gaze away from him, glances at his brother out of the corner of his eye and is definitely sure that the two are related by blood. Osamu tilts his head, giving Iwaizumi a quick once-over and a startled look that Suna, judging by the irritation on his face, would love to knock off. Fucking jerk. That's what he gets for dragging his feet and not officially asking Osamu out yet. Atsumu hopes he'll suffer a while longer. Then, his eyes automatically drift to the spot next to Oikawa's desk, where the floor-to-ceiling windows offer a sweeping view of the city and have kept a figure standing in their glow all these months. But now, that spot is empty. A strange feeling churns in Atsumu's gut, a weird sense of absence. This was where Kayumi used to stand, from where he used to watch Atsumu, a constant presence that kept messing with his heart. Now that he's not here anymore, something feels wrong, like a piece of the puzzle is missing, like his heart is still bleeding, never stopped. Oikawa steps forward and a sly smile spreads across his face. His eyes gleam with mischief as he slings an arm around Atsumu's shoulder and draws him closer. Their faces are now mere inches apart and Oikawa's warm breath clashes against Atsumu's skin. My, you really do look alike. Huh? He murmurs, his eyes glinting with amusement. Atsumu cracks a smile, glancing back at Osamu, who shifts uncomfortably and annoyed under their scrutiny. Yeah, Atsumu says. We get that a lot. Not sure it's a compliment. Suna mutters, rolling his eyes, and Atsumu smacks him so hard he hopes it'll bruise. Shut your trap. What the? Oi. Osamu interrupts and sighs, glancing around the room and frowning. Let's just get this over with. Ikuo chuckles, releasing Atsumu and stepping back. Yeah. The Kumicho smirks and gestures toward empty seats on the couch. We have a lot to discuss. So, what you're trying to say is that I have to give up practically everything if I want to get 𝒒𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 back? Ikuo arches an eyebrow and takes a drag on his cigarette, then blows the smoke to the side as he leans against his desk, arms folded. It's the only way to strike a balance that everyone can benefit from. Komori explains with a frown. That way, 𝒒𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 will be back in your hands without you being dependent on a Shijima. And what will happen to Sendai? Iwaizumi asks skeptically. It'll be independent, explains Atsumu standing at Kiyumi's usual spot with his arms crossed over his chest. I have a former landlord who would do anything to drive Yakuza out of his town and keep them away in the future. Ikuo sneers. The man despises you and you betrayed his trust. Atsumu-chan, what makes you so sure he'll help you? Cause he despises you even more than me. Atsumu smirks back, a little pissed off, and Ikuo matches his expression. He'll kiss my ass when I tell him he's getting rid of you. TSK. Ikuo clicks his tongue. Above all, he's going to shoot you on the spot. The man has a soft spot for me. Carver. Atsumu shrugs. After everything that happened, he feels a little guilty for betraying Semi and Shirabu like that. They've been good to him all this time, but Atsumu was never in Sendai to make friends. Then again, he was never there to fall in love either. Yeah, so much so that he offered you his pepper spray out of worry for you. Ikuo snorts. Do you think he'll do it again when he finds out what you're up to? He did what? Suna and Osamu ask in unison, not even bothering to suppress the amusement in their voices. Atsumu flinches and has the urge to smack their heads. First, he glares at Ikuo's stupid face and then he stares at his brother and his not boyfriend yet plainly annoyed. The man was worried about me. What should I do? Atsumu explains lightheartedly with a shrug. Who wouldn't be with the aura Omi-kun gave off? The bastard literally wanted to kill me, and Semi thought I was just a simple citizen. Speaking of, Ikuo interrupts before Komori or Osamu get a chance to speak. Tell me about your actual plan, please, because I highly suspect that we're going to need that petty jerk. Ikuo. Iwaizumi warns, but Ikuo ignores him. But strangely enough, I can't see him anywhere around here. Now, can I? Ikuo raises both eyebrows and signals that they'll have to do a lot of convincing to get him on their side. And he is not wrong in his suspicion. After all, he has always been extremely intelligent and cunning. Finding out the strengths and weaknesses of his own men, as well as those of his enemies, is a piece of cake for him. Kiyumi in a Shijima's hands? They all know they don't stand a chance like this. Atsumu meets Komori's gaze, looking as gloomy as he does. This plan involves many sacrifices, many things they can't control themselves. Things they can only hope for the best outcome. Everything stands or falls here in Sendai. If Ikuo doesn't go along with them, then it's over. Just like if they can't convince Kiyumi to stab a Shijima in the back. Komori takes a deep breath. At the end of the week, Kiyo and Kageyama will come to Shiratorizawa to give you an ultimatum. Iwaizumi frowns. Ikuo seems unimpressed so far. Either you decide to join a Shijima and get 𝒒𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 in return, or Iwaizumi clenches his jaw. Komori exhales deeply, or 𝒒𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 will be wiped out anytime soon. Atsumu notices the subtle tension in Ikuo's jaw, the way he clenches and unclenches it, clearly trying to maintain his composure. He may look unimpressed to outsiders, but Atsumu knows him too well by now not to be able to see right through him. 𝒒𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 may have been in a Shijima's hands all this time, but he never dared to harm anyone living there, because he never had the capacity to do so. It would have meant war, instantly. Ikuo would not have hesitated. With Kiyumi in his team, however, things look different. Komori, Ikuo says with a stern face. Do you realize what kind of deal you're offering me here? Atsumu frowns, the seething anger in Ikuo's voice not going unnoticed. Ikuo, I took you in. I nursed you back to consciousness. I gave you and your cousin sanctuary without batting an eye, never once asking him to work for me. And yet he did. Yes. Ikuo laughs humorlessly, and God bless him for all the help he's been to me. He stubs out his cigarette and looks deep into Komori's eyes. Atsumu feels a shiver run down his spine. Osamu and Suna look similarly uneasy. So, to thank me for all my good deeds, you're seriously telling me that I what? Have to fucking choose between the devil and the deep blue sea? Komori has never asked for his help. Considering that he is just like Atsumu, the assassin knows that Komori is biting his tongue hard not to let the word slip out, because then the deal would surely be off and all they would be facing is a chaotic bloodbath. No. Komori is more cautious than Atsumu. Instead of giving in to his emotions, he shakes his head and remains calm. Must be an Tachiyama thing. Ha, my cousin joining a Shijima is the last thing I wanted. You know that. There's a kick into Atsumu's gut and Suna gives him a worried look. Atsumu deliberately ignores it. And you also know that I appreciate everything you've offered me and Kyo. You know that's exactly why I'm here. Komori holds Ikoa's gaze, his expression becoming increasingly blank. Then he huffs and takes another cigarette from his jacket. Iwaizumi scowls at it but refrains from interrupting his Kyumicho to light it. They all know that Ikoa's hands are tied. Now that Ashijima has Tendo and Kyumi on his team, there has been an immense shift in power. No matter what Ikoa decides to do, he will have to face losses. Even with all his allies, he is no match for the Schweden Adlers. Not as long as two of the strongest men are fighting at their side. So, he has to choose. Does he wait for Ashijima's offer and opt for a hopeless war or give him exactly what he wanted in the first place? For Ikoa to work for him? Or does he accept Komori's offer and at least protect the place he still cares deeply about after all these years? As a businessman, I still don't see how this is going to benefit me. You never wanted a monopoly, Ikoa. Komori objects. Then he nods to Atsumu, and their final decisive argument drops. He'll kill him for you. You won't have to get your hands dirty. Osamu frowns while Ikoa's eyebrows shoot all the way up to his hairline. Everyone holds their breath for a moment and then, hold the fuck up. You're going to do what now? Ikoa's surprised gaze snaps to Atsumu just as Osamu jumps up from his seat. That was never part of the damn deal. Samu. No. Osamu grabs Atsumu's collar and pushes him against the window behind him. Atsumu clicks his tongue in annoyance and tries to shake his brother off. But Osamu doesn't let go and tightens his grip on the black fabric. Crick. No matter what we do, Ashijima will attack Ikoa either way, and how do ya think it will end? Ha. With Ashijima suddenly backing off and surrendering, I don't give a shit what that bastard does, but you won't be in their line of fire. I'll kill him before he can even consider his gun. Come on Samu, you know me, you know what I'm capable of, yeah, and that's exactly why I know better than anyone else what your limits are. Osamu scowls at his brother. Atsumu's heart races. There I say more than any word could do. You don't think? You're reckless. Someone has to stop you from doing stupid things if you won't do it yourself. Trust me. Fuck you, Samu. This isn't about trust. Atsumu. Oh yeah, Atsumu huffs. Then what is it about? Osamu's grip is so tight that his knuckles turn white. His gaze shifts back and forth between Atsumu's golden eyes, concern settling over Osamu's anger more than ever before. Atsumu knows exactly what he's thinking and he's aware of what he's asking his brother to do. He's asking him to let Atsumu go, to let him risk his life. Just this one last time. It's the only way if they finally want to be free of everything. If they finally want to live their dream. Why does it have to be you of all people? Osamu asks calmly now and loosens his grip. Atsumu gets his point. He really does. If their roles were reversed, he would be at least as angry as Osamu is right now and would do anything to prevent his brother from having to put himself in such a dangerous situation. And yes, Atsumu feels shabby for not telling him from the beginning. But if he had, they never would have gotten here. I owe it to Kyumi. Osamu swallows thickly and then he lets go of him. Seconds pass. 1, then 2, and then Osamu takes a few steps back, still holding Atsumu's gaze. You're no less important than he is, Atsumu wants to tell him, but the words are stuck in his throat. I need some fresh air, Osamu says and rushes out of Ikoa's office. Atsumu stares at the floor, flinches as Osamu pulls the door open so forcefully that it slams against the wall with a loud thud, echoing the frustration in the room, and disappears. Atsumu's gaze lingers on the empty doorway. His brother is long gone. Then, his attention shifts to Rin, who rises from his seat with a scowl aimed at Atsumu from the corner of his eye. Great. He's made friends again. I'll go check on him. Atsumu nods wordlessly, hoping Rin will manage to calm Osamu down. He knows he needs to have a conversation with his brother, to make him understand that once they have Kyumi on their side, his fight will be in 𝒕𝒑𝒔, not in Inarizaki. But that's for later. Osamu will understand. As if Atsumu doesn't have enough on his plate already, the bastard of Kyumicho next to him dares to whistle in bewilderment and raises an eyebrow in mild amusement, clearly astonished by Osamu's short temper. And here I thought he was the calm one. Ikoa glances at Atsumu and takes a drag of his cigarette. But when it comes to the ones you love, I guess everyone loses their cool. Huh? Atsumu's gaze snaps to Ikoa, the Kyumicho scrutinizing him with narrowed eyes. He is referring to himself, to his determination to get 𝒕𝒑𝒔 back without any of his men losing their lives. But he is also referring to Atsumu, who is once again about to throw himself unconditionally and fearlessly into danger just to save the one person to whom he has lost his heart. This time it's different. This time Atsumu has a plan. This time he is not alone. Shoot. Ikoa exhales. I'm listening. What's the plan? Komori stares at Atsumu with wide and determined eyes and nods curtly, signaling that now is the time to lay everything bare. Ikoa is tempted to follow their plan. It's a chance they have to take. When Kyo and Kageyama are in Shiratorizawa and give you the ultimatum, Komori begins. They will give you a certain amount of time in which you can make up your mind. I assume it will be a few weeks. We'll use this time to prepare for the fight. So, let's say I say no to Shiwaka's offer. Ikuo frowns and gestures with the cigarette in his hand. That would mean he would send his men to 𝒕𝒔. Right. You'll wait for him here and let's say you actually manage to defeat him. What will happen to the 𝒑𝒍�𝒂𝒔s? We were hoping that your contacts in Tokyo could help us with that. Atsumu explains. And Ikuo raises an eyebrow in amusement. Kiryu, he laughs. Then he shakes his head. The man will take care of the districts he's already hanging around in anyway. But the rest? Take control of the 𒑑𝒍�𝒂𝒔s? Ikuo huffs out another laugh. No. Kiryu is your wrong man. So, who are you thinking of? Komori asks. Ikuo takes a long drag of his cigarette and glances sideways at Iwaizumi. Atsumu notices the silent communication between them and marvels at how seamlessly they understand each other. With a subtle gesture, Ikuo signals his plan to his right-hand man, and Iwaizumi responds with immediate, unspoken agreement. Tobio-chan. Ikuo begins. Atsumu furrows his brow. Bring him on board. He will lead the 𒑑𝒍�💂💂 in the remaining parts of Tokyo, while Nakoma will take over the rest. All prefectures outside of Tokyo will return to their original state, so only the main core will be left, but it will be as big as any other yakuza around it, so that shouldn't be an issue. As far as I know, Kageyama is quite loyal. Atsumu holds Ikuo's gaze. Why should he betray Ashijima? Ikuo grins mischievously and Atsumu doesn't know if he likes it. Everyone has a weakness. Atsumu-chan. Then he nods to Hinata and grins even wider. And in the case of our dear Tobio-chan, it's Chibi-chan. Hinata flinches and pricks up his ears. Atsumu's frown deepens. Ikuo-san. Hinata's voice is soft, but Ikuo immediately explains himself. We're going to limit our organization to 𝒕𝒔. Right. That means it's time to let the men go who were planning to leave anyway. Hinata looks at Ikuo skeptically and tries to follow him, but for now, his 𝒑𝒍�𝒂𝒔 speaks in riddles. Chibi-chan, 𝒑𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂, I've taken up more of your time than I ever planned. Ikuo says with a soft smile, his men's eyes never leaving him. When this is over, you'll be free to go wherever you're drawn to. I know you've both grown fond of Atsumu, and you'll probably follow him to Osaka. Hinata and 𝒑𝒂💂💂💂 exchange a silent glance. The unspoken bond between them and Atsumu is clear. Atsumu looks at them with wide eyes and a blush creeps into his cheeks. Is Ikuo serious? Having 𝒑𝒂💂💂 and Hinata in Osaka would be amazing. 𒑑𝒑💂💂 sheepishly rubs the back of his neck and then mumbles. We have to admit that we've had more fun with you than with anyone else. Atsumu laughs at that. There's no way they're serious about this, are they? You two would fit right in with us in Osaka. Atsumu grins and Hinata beams. So, they're really going to join Atsumu in Osaka. To get back to my point, Chibi-chan would no longer be part of my organization, which means if Tobio-chan were to become the new 𒑑𝒑💂💂💂 of the 𒑑𝒍�💂💂💂, he would be free to see him whenever he wants. Tobio would have the control and power to make his own decisions. Atsumu glances at Hinata. The boy remains silent, avoiding his gaze, his face visibly flushed. That way, they could just let their feelings be. Looks like Ikuo is a damn softie after all. Besides, with Kageyama as the new 𒑑𝒑💂💂💂, Ikuo would gain an ally in the 𒑑𝒍�💂💂💂💂. Hinata had mentioned that Ikuo once trained Kageyama, right? Ikuo's network of contacts is extensive, and having someone in the 𒑑𝒍�💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂 as well as Nakoma, would give him invaluable insight into the whole of Tokyo. Okay. Atsumu breathes. That means we will convince Kageyama of our plan. Ikuo nods. Then he puts his hands on his hips and frowns. Chibi-chan can do that. If Tobio listens to anyone, it's him. Yes. Hinata says enthusiastically, the blush still heavy on his cheeks. I can handle Yama. I'll do my best. Atsumu smiles and watches Hinata's determination. They all nod to him. A collective sense of agreement settling over the room, and Atsumu feels a surge of hope. This plan is taking shape. It's going in the right direction. Change is coming to the Yakuza world. And for once, it's change for the better. So that's settled. Ikuo crosses his arms in front of his chest and leans back against his desk. Nevertheless, you still haven't been able to answer my question from before. He fumbles for the next cigarette in his jacket, but this time Iwaizumi clicks his tongue, visibly annoyed, and snatches it out of Ikuo's hand. Ikuo scowls at him, but Iwaizumi remains unfazed, tucking the cigarette behind his ear and shooting his 𒑑𝒑💂💂💂 an even more irritated look. It's endearing, really, to see how much Iwaizumi cares for Ikuo. Despite his intimidating presence, he clearly has a soft spot for his 𒑑𝒑💂💂💂 and only ever wants the best for him. Their bond must run deep. Ikuo turns back to Atsumu and Komori without a cigarette, and props himself up against the table, his palms pressing into the wooden edge. His fingers start to tap nervously, drumming an erratic beat that mirrored that hint of uneasiness churning inside him. Let's say I reduce my territories and move back to 𝒕𝒔. Let's say Kiryu and Kageyama divide the Tokyo territories between them with Kageyama in charge of the 𒑑𝒍�💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂💂 territories outside Tokyo will revert to their original 𒑑𝒂💂💂 Tokyo took over. But, Ikuo grins. Yet there's not an ounce of joy behind that smile. Your damn plan stands or falls with Kiryu, and they all know that. Kyumi is essential for everything they have planned. We're working on it. Komori counters. Ikuo tilts his head and juts his chin out, gesturing towards the door. And are you working on that too? The question is directed at Atsumu. Both are keeping a straight face. Samu and Rin will defeat Daisho in Inarizaki. Kita-san will be with them. And Komori will help as well. I'll bring EJP on board. Mian will watch over Osaka in the meantime. Komori adds. Ikuo arches an eyebrow and looks at Atsumu. So, that's how you'll have time to deal with Ashiwaka. You won't be in Inarizaki? Atsumu shakes his head. We have enough capable people in Inarizaki to deal with Daisho. I'm not really needed there. So I'll focus on the bastard in Seijo. Daisho's territories will also be redistributed once this is over. Komori continues. Some may even declare independence, depending on what the respective organizations decide. Ikuo nods thoughtfully. Kiryu can take care of it. He knows the people down there well enough. Ikuo frowns. And if you need additional support in Inarizaki, Kiryu would help without batting an eye. Just let him know. Atsumu nods his thanks. He won't turn down such an offer. Komori was right from the start to bring Ikuo in on this plan. The man has allies all over Japan. And isn't that more advantageous than trying to rule everything all alone? However, you alone won't be enough to handle this in Seijo. Ikuo's expression is serious. Having Tendo and Kiyo-chan on Ashiwaka's side is the worst case scenario for us. If you want to go through with this plan, you have to get Kiyo-chan on your side. Atsumu nods, his eyes shifting from Ikuo to Komori. They all understand that this plan hinges on Kyumi's involvement. Their initial goal was to convince Kyumi back in Tokyo, but the bastard is stubborn and so is Atsumu, and somehow things have once again turned out completely different than they were supposed to. You know this doesn't make sense. Atsumu clenches his hands into fists. Actually, you know what? Atsumu mumbles, earning curious looks. Kageyama, Omi-kun, leave them to me when they get here at the end of the week. What do you mean? Ikuo asks, confused. Atsumu meets his gaze. Let me explain our plan to Kageyama and convince Kyumi in my own way. Ikuo raises his eyebrows, and Komori tilts his head. Why? Komori asks. Do you have anything specific in mind? Atsumu laughs humorlessly, then looks at Komori and Ikuo with a mischievous glint in his eyes. Yeah, he says. Something quite special. Night has fallen by the time Atsumu enters the small apartment he, Osamu, and Rin have rented for their stay in Sendai. The place is quiet, save for the distant hum of the city nightlife outside. Atsumu's footsteps echo softly on the wooden floor as he walks down the dark hallway toward the small living room. He stops at the threshold and his eyes are on the open balcony door. Through it, he sees Osamu leaning over the railing, a cigarette glowing dimly between his fingers. Atsumu sighs, feeling the weight of the day's events pressing heavily on his shoulders, then walks outside to join his brother. Osamu glances at him from the corner of his eye but doesn't fully turn to face him. His gaze quickly returns to the sprawling, lighted up city below, the smoke from his cigarette curling up into the cool night air. Atsumu steps beside him, leaning his back against the railing so he can watch Osamu's face, but his twin doesn't bother to meet his eyes. The night breeze bites at his skin, and he shoves his hands into the pockets of his jacket, pulling his shoulders up for warmth. He buries half of his face in the collar of Kyumi's black jacket and stares at the ground, trying to find the right words. Where's Rin? Atsumu asks softly. Bathroom. He's taking a shower. Osamu replies after a moment, his voice flat and distant. Atsumu hates it. He nods and can feel the tension radiating from his brother, each puff of smoke a bitter reminder of the rift that's grown between them. Atsumu knows he needs to bridge that gap, but the fear of another fight makes his heart race. It's like they're back at square one. Thought you'd wanted to stop. Atsumu mumbles after a while, but Osamu takes a deep, purposeful breath, the end of his cigarette glowing brighter. He huffs bitterly as he exhales the smoke, the sound filled with frustration and hurt, and it makes Atsumu start to feel sick. Yeah, Osamu says calmly, and I thought we'd stopped keeping secrets from each other, but here we are. Yeah, fuck this. Atsumu's heart sinks into the pit of his stomach. He swallows hard, fighting the rising tide of anxiety. The thought of another argument with Osamu is almost too much to bear. He feels a tight knot of dread in his chest, each beat of his heart amplifying the fear that this rift might never be mended. Atsumu's mind races with a chaotic swirl of guilt, fear, and sadness. He feels a lump forming in his throat, making it hard for him to breathe. Atsumu wants to reach out, to say something that will make things right, but the fear of rejection holds him back. He clenches his fists in his pockets and tries to ground himself. He knows he messed this up, but if there's one person Atsumu thought would understand him, it's Osamu. Is he asking too much of him? The silence between them grows unbearable and Atsumu can't help but glance at Osamu with hurt evident in his eyes. Osamu exhales another cloud of smoke and then, his gaze is finally meeting Atsumu's. Tsumu, he begins, his voice softer now, more tinged with concern than curiosity. Is he really worth it? Atsumu swallows thickly, feeling tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. He nods, softly at first, then more forcefully. His voice comes barely in a breath. Yeah. His frown deepens, but he keeps his gaze locked with Osamu's, willing him to understand. To me, he is what Rin is to you. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Osamu's frown may grow more pronounced, but there's a flicker of realization in his eyes and Atsumu knows that he does, in fact, understand, because it's obvious what Rin means to Osamu. He is his soulmate, the one person he will never want to let go of, the one with whom everything just feels right. And yeah, the silence stretches on, but their gazes remain locked. It's in that moment that words would never be able to express what their hearts are actually feeling. Atsumu sees the understanding dawn in Osamu's eyes, the recognition of a bond as deep and unbreakable as his own with Rin, and Atsumu also sees that Osamu is starting to give in. He trusts his brother, and that means if Atsumu is trusting Kyumi, then Osamu will do so too, right? Hey. Rin steps out and interrupts their moment. He approaches Osamu from behind, casually plucking the cigarette from his hand and taking a long drag himself. Osamu tilts his head in surprise, caught off guard by Rin's sudden appearance, and Rin doesn't miss a beat, grabbing Osamu's chin and lifting his gaze to meet his own. Exhaling the smoke to the side, he locks his eyes with Osamu's, his gaze filled with concern and affection. I'm done. You can go wash up, Rin murmurs softly. Osamu captures his full attention. He blushes, and Atsumu knows his brother's heart must be fluttering at Rin's touch. Osamu nods slowly in response, and then Rin leans in, presses a passionate kiss to Osamu's lips. And isn't that exactly what Atsumu means? Everything about them is just so right. Are you alright? Rin whispers against Osamu's lips, a silent reassurance passing between them, and Osamu's blush deepens, but he meets Rin's gaze with a soft nod. Yeah, I'm good, he murmurs, his voice barely audible over the pounding of his heart. Osamu pulls him down and they share another tender kiss before he breaks away, clearing his throat as he turns back to his brother. His expression softens and there's a silent apology in his eyes as he acknowledges Atsumu's presence. He steps forward and pulls Atsumu into a tight hug. The latter releases a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding, sighing in relief as he buries his face in the crook of Osamu's neck. The tension between them melts away, replaced by the comforting familiarity of their bond. I get it, Atsumu. I do, Osamu whispers, his voice a soothing balm to Atsumu's frayed nerves. Atsumu squeezes him tighter in response, the embrace conveying both his gratitude and his unspoken apology for keeping his plans a secret. I'm sorry, he mumbles eventually, but Osamu just holds him tighter, reassuring him with a gentle squeeze that hey, it's alright. When Osamu finally breaks away, he gives Atsumu a soft, understanding smile before turning to head inside. Atsumu watches him walk to the bathroom, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders with each step his brother takes, hoping Osamu won't hold it against him. They might not fight side by side in this decisive battle, but once it's over, they will always be united, with the ones they love by their side. As soon as Osamu is out of earshot, Rin steps closer to Atsumu, his eyes sharp and perceptive. You're giving him one ultimatum after another, Atsumu. Atsumu looks at Rin, taking in his serious expression. He knows Rin is right, but the path they've chosen is fraught with peril, and sometimes hard decisions have to be made. Still, he can't ignore the strain it puts on his relationship with his brother, and Atsumu knows this has to change. It will change. They are so close to creating a better world. Atsumu's voice is flat as he responds. Didn't ask for your opinion, Sunarin. Rin's gaze hardens. His tone is biting. You'll end up hurting him with the way you act. That's rich coming from you, Atsumu counters, his voice dripping with sarcasm and barely concealed anger. Rin's expression shifts to confusion and irritation. He knits his brows together. The fuck do you mean? Atsumu's temper flares. He grabs Rin by the collar and presses him against the balcony railing. Their faces are inches apart, and Atsumu's eyes blaze with fury. Drop the act, lover boy. You have some fucking nerve to kiss my brother right in front of my eyes. Suna smirks, though his eyes flash with anger. What? Do I need your blessing now? Atsumu's grip tightens. His voice comes in a low, dangerous snarl. I swear to God, Rin, if you'll end up hurting him again, I will cut your fucking throat. I will make you bleed. I will rip limb after limb from your body and I'll make you watch. He releases Suna with a rough shove and turns away, stepping inside the apartment. His voice is a muttered growl as he leaves. Confess already, you fucking coward. If you're not gonna fight as boyfriends in Inarizaki, I'll make sure to kill you myself. Atsumu. Suna calls out, but Atsumu ignores him, his footsteps echoing softly as he walks away. Atsumu. Suna calls again, more insistent this time, and then he grabs Atsumu's arm. Atsumu immediately rips his arm free from Suna's grasp and whirls around. What? He bites, his eyes blazing as he glares at Rin. Kyumi loves you. Suna's voice is steady, but the words hit Atsumu like a punch to the gut. His breath catches in his throat and his heart slumps down into the pit of his stomach. No, this is nothing that he wanted to hear. Love, he's doing all of this shit to protect you, because he loves you. Their gazes are locked, and Atsumu tries to steady his breath, the raw emotion swirling in his chest. It fucking hurts. Why does it hurt? He loves you, Rin repeats, and Atsumu blinks, finally tearing his gaze away from Rin to focus on a random spot on the ground between them. Of course, Rin sees right through him. Atsumu means every word he said. Rin should finally confess to his brother. He should make this thing between them official. Rin doesn't have to worry about anything happening to Osamu, because neither he nor Atsumu would let anything ever happen to him. Osamu is safe. But the reason Atsumu is so angry on Osamu's behalf is indeed because he feels exactly the same way about Kyumi. It's incredibly frustrating when you know you're meant to be together, but there's always something that keeps getting in the way. Maybe that frustration boiled over. Maybe it wasn't fair to take it out on Rin. Atsumu swallows thickly and exhales deeply. Then, he turns around and his shoulders slump slightly. Atsumu. Rin starts again, and his voice is softer now. Atsumu stops in his tracks but doesn't turn around. They are scared they might lose you. Osamu and Kyumi, be careful out there. I don't wanna lose you too. Atsumu scoffs. A bitter sound that echoes in the quiet night. Why the hell is everyone so fucking worried? Atsumu frowns. His voice strained. No one's gonna die. Yes, but that's nothing he can promise. Can he? I hate it here. Oikawa mutters, having a look of exaggerated annoyance plastered on his face. 𝒑𝒉𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒕� of all fucking places. Can you believe I have to set foot in here? It's like stepping into a trap set by a bunch of clowns. Still holding a grudge. Huh? Atsumu snickers, remembering Oikawa's long-standing aversion to this place. The Q-Micho rolls his eyes dramatically as he takes a final drag of his cigarette and then flicks it away. Always. This place reeks of Ashiwaka's influence. It's suffocating and actually makes me want to kill myself. Atsumu laughs. Well, at least we're here for a good reason. And you get to shit-talk 𝒑𝒉𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒕𔔄 all you want. Oikawa smirks. True. If I have to be here, I might as well enjoy myself. Atsumu walks beside Oikawa towards 𝒑𝒉𝒆𝒅𝒅's festival hall. There are people hosting a charity event aimed at raising funds for orphaned kids across Miyagi, a cause Oikawa was keen to support. It's clear Ashijima must have been aware of this event, likely prompting his decision to send Kyumi and Kageyama here by the end of the week to talk to Oikawa. The Q-Micho looks as charming and confident as ever, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit that enhances his commanding presence. He screams for attention, from his meticulously styled hair to the subtle gleam of jewelry adorning his fingers, hazel eyes shining brightly. His skin so flawlessly perfected makes Atsumu want to punch him in the face, just for the sake of making it imperfect. But Atsumu himself doesn't look too bad either. He cuts a striking figure in the light grey suit Kyumi chose for him back when Atsumu fought Yako. The suit hugs his frame in all the right places, hinting at a physique honed through discipline and training. Atsumu recalls with a smirk how Kyumi had once expressed something like a desire to tear it off him, a thought that still lingers tantalizingly in his mind. Tonight, will Atsumu manage to make Kyumi long for it again? At least, that's his plan. The festival hall is bustling with activity as people gather for the event. The lights, the chatter, and the festive decorations create a warm, inviting atmosphere, and yet Atsumu can sense Oikawa's disdain. It's funny, really, how much Oikawa detests being here. They make their way through the crowd and Atsumu scans the faces for Kageyama. The plan is simple but crucial. Atsumu will talk to Kageyama first and lay the groundwork before Oikawa makes his move, and for various reasons, Atsumu has a strong suspicion that Kyumi will eventually step in. So, what's your big plan to get Kiyo-chan's attention? Oikawa asks casually as he picks up a flute of champagne from a waiter's tray. Atsumu grins. Simple. I use my charm. You know, talk to Kageyama. Listen to him very closely. Just get the ball rolling. Omi-kun's bound to step in sooner or later. He's got a knack for it. It wouldn't be the first time. Back when Atsumu first met Kageyama, this might have been the first time, when they were in Inarizaki and Atsumu was pissed at Kyumi and Tsunerin. The second time, and not a day later, when Kyumi was still mad at Atsumu because he didn't know that Osamu was Atsumu's brother and not his partner. The third time, Kyumi's facade crumbles, and today will be like the last time they met in Tokyo. His body will act before his mind can. Just a little charm and a lot of provocation. Omi-kun can't resist stepping in when he thinks someone's encroaching on his territory. Oikawa chuckles. His territory? You're counting on him getting all riled up. Huh? More like, I'm counting on him Ben. Protective. Atsumu corrects, frowning. He hates it when things seem out of his control. Makes him wanna take charge. He expects you to be in Inarizaki. Won't be too pleased to see me here. Oikawa snorts, then takes a sip of the champagne. Too bad he could never control you. Huh? Oikawa says, and Atsumu hums. Just make sure you don't piss him off too much. We need him on our side. Remember? Atsumu waves a hand dismissively. Relax. I got this. Sides. Omi-kun's a big softy under all that grumpiness. He'll come around. You're playing with fire, Atsumu. I always do. Atsumu says confidently, and Oikawa snickers, then shakes his head in amusement. Yeah, sure. Keep your knives handy, just in case. Atsumu laughs, patting the concealed holster under his jacket. I'm not a rookie. Carver. Ikuo snorts again and downs his glass. He puts the flute aside and the two of them navigate through the crowd. As they approach the main hall, Ikuo leans closer to Atsumu. By the way, Matsukawa told me that Okamura is in town. Atsumu's eyes narrow. Why? What's he doing here? Ikuo glances at Atsumu as they keep making their way. His expression turns serious. Unfinished business with Kiyo-chan. Doesn't sit right with him that Kayumi can just do whatever he wants. Got wind that he's here in Shiratorizawa, away from Ashijima's watchful eye. Easier to approach. Apparently. Atsumu laughs humorlessly and keeps scanning the room for Kageyama. He clenches his fists and remembers the confrontation with Okamura vividly. Beating him up on Ikuo's behalf had almost led to a clash with Ashijima, but Kayumi had intervened. It was Atsumu's doing, not Kayumi's. And now what? The guy's petty because Kayumi didn't let Atsumu beat Ashijima to a pulp? Fucking prick. You better hurry up. Ikuo says. You don't want that bastard causing any trouble. If he sees you being here too, he will hardly hold back. Atsumu snorts. What? You think I'm scared? Atsumu. Ikuo warns but smirks. Okamura won't show up alone. Alright. Keep an eye on your phone. I'll watch out and let you know when I see him. Ha, sure. Atsumu says, not really paying any mind to what Ikuo is actually warning him about. They pass through an archway and enter another hall. The vibrant decorations and lively music momentarily distracting them from the tension. Atsumu spots Kageyama sitting at the bar, sipping what he assumes to be a glass of the finest brandy and looking as serious as ever. He takes a deep breath and turns to Ikuo, nudging him gently. Found our shining star. Ikuo smirks, eyes glinting with mischief. Good. You go make your move. I'll go find Kayumi and keep an eye on things. Remember the plan. Atsumu nods. Sure thing. Don't get too distracted by Omi-kun's charms now. He can be real alluring. You know. Ikuo snorts, then moves off into the crowd, his presence disappearing amidst the swell of people. Atsumu smirks confidently and strides over to Kageyama, his steps purposeful and his gaze locked onto the brooding figure at the bar. As he approaches, Atsumu subtly adjusts his suit, making sure every detail is perfect. His fingers brush against his jacket, his necklace, a lingering touch meant to draw attention. Mind if I join you, Tobio-kun? Atsumu's voice is smooth, laced with a hint of playful charm. Kageyama looks up, his expression guarded but curious. He gestures to the empty seat beside him with a slight nod, acknowledging Atsumu's presence without a word. Atsumu gracefully slides onto the brass stool next to him and leans in slightly closer than necessary. His hand casually rests on the bar counter, dangerously close to Kageyama's. He maintains eye contact, studying Kageyama's reactions with a keen eye. Fancy meeting you here, Atsumu, he acknowledges, raising his glass slightly. What brings you here? Atsumu hums, his smile widening. Oh, you know, just supporting a good cause and enjoying the festivities. Can't pass up on a chance to do some good, right? Kageyama nods curtly, his gaze scrutinizing Atsumu. Yeah, I guess. Can I get you a drink? Sure, Atsumu says smoothly. His hand brushes against Kageyama's arm as he gestures casually. Surprise me. Kageyama signals the bartender and orders a drink for Atsumu. The two men sit in comfortable silence for a moment, the noise of the party surrounding them like a cocoon. The bartender hands Atsumu a glass of brandy, and Atsumu takes a sip, letting the rich flavor linger on his tongue. He turns to Kageyama and his eyes are twinkling with mischief. So, he begins. How's life treating ya? Seems like you're doing pretty well for yourself. Kageyama shrugs and takes a sip of his own brandy. It's fine. Busy. As usual. Atsumu hums. So, what brings a busy guy like you to an event like this? Kageyama shoots him a sidelong glance. Duty calls. Ah, duty. The ever-present shadow in our lives. Atsumu muses. But surely, there's something more to it. A handsome man like you must have other reasons. Kageyama's lips twitch slightly. It's almost a smile. You're quite forward, aren't you? Only when I see something I like. Atsumu replies smoothly, leaning a bit closer. Then his voice drops to a more intimate tone. And right now, I like what I see. Kageyama studies him for a moment, then nods to the bartender. Another round for us. Atsumu smirks. As the bartender prepares their drinks, Atsumu leans back with a satisfied grin on his face. Kageyama sticks a cigarette between his lips and lights it. He is careful not to blow in Atsumu's face as he exhales. You know, I always admired how dedicated you are. You got that focus, that drive. It's impressive. Kageyama raises an eyebrow, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. Coming from you, that means something. You're not exactly known for lack of ambition. Atsumu laughs softly, accepting the drink the bartender places in front of him. True, but sometimes, ambition needs a little help, a little push in the right direction. Kageyama looks intrigued now. His full attention is on Atsumu. And what direction might that be? Atsumu takes a sip of his drink, savoring the taste before leaning in a little closer, his hand resting lightly on Kageyama's forearm. His voice drops to a conspiratorial whisper. What if I told you that Ikuo and I have a plan? A plan to shake things up. Big time. But we need the right people on our side. Atsumu's gaze shifts to Kageyama's shiny lips, People like you, Tobio-kun. Kageyama's eyes narrow, suspicion mingling with curiosity. A clan? To do what, exactly? Atsumu leans in even closer, his gaze locked on Kageyama's, and his hand slides to the tie cascading down Kageyama's chest. Atsumu's fingers skim over the fabric, smoothing it out, his gaze following his own movements until he shifts it back to ocean blue eyes. Then, Atsumu smirks and glances around to make sure no one is listening. To bring a Shijima down, and when the dust settles, you'd be in the perfect position to take over the Schweden Adlers. Think about it, Tobio-kun. You've got the skills, the brains, the drive. All you need is the opportunity. Kageyama's expression is unreadable as he processes Atsumu's words. He looks a little taken aback, but his expression quickly hardens. I'm not working for Oikawa, he states firmly, but Atsumu interrupts and shakes his head. Nah, he breathes. You shouldn't work for anyone. You make it sound so simple. It's not. Atsumu admits. It's risky, dangerous even, but worth it. And with the right allies, we can make it happen. Kageyama remains silent, his eyes boring into Atsumu's as he processes the information. Atsumu can feel Tobio's heart thrumming beneath his touch. He takes the opportunity to push a little further. Love interests between two different yakuzas. It's kinda like treason, right? Atsumu says casually, watching Kageyama closely. The other man's silence encourages him to continue. Shoyo-kun's joining me in Osaka when all this is over. I know Yaku Micho isn't exactly fond of him. He didn't really mind letting him get shot last I checked. Kageyama's gaze sharpens. What do you want? Atsumu grasps Kageyama's tie and yanks him closer until their lips are almost touching. He keeps eye contact. His gaze is intense and unwavering. Be smart. Join us. Help us take down a Shijima, and you'll be in the perfect position to take over. It's time for a new order, Tobio-kun. One where people like you and me can thrive. Kageyama's eyes widen slightly. The surprise is evident on his face. For a moment, Atsumu can see the wheels turning in Kageyama's mind, the consideration flickering in his gaze, so close to give in. Then, Kageyama's eyes shift down to Atsumu's mouth. And there's that damned moment of vulnerability and temptation laid bare. Atsumu's lips curl into a confident smirk, and his own gaze drops to Kageyama's inviting lips, just a whisper away from his own. But before they can close the distance, a sharp slam of an empty glass on the bar counter breaks the tension, startling Kageyama enough to shy away. I think I saw Oikawa down the hallway. Kyumi spits through gritted teeth. Why don't you check? Kageyama. Atsumu chuckles, the sound low and amused. He lets go of Kageyama's tie and his eyes shift to Kyumi. Guess you have your orders, Tobio-kun, he says lightly, though his gaze remains locked with onyx coals. Kyumi's glare is actually almost suffocating Atsumu. Kageyama, clearly rattled, straightens his tie and nods stiffly before walking away, leaving Atsumu and Kyumi facing each other in the midst of the bustling crowd. And fuck yes, this is where the fun begins. Atsumu turns away and downs his brandy in one go while Kyumi slides onto the brass stool next to him, his presence impossible to ignore even if Atsumu tries. Atsumu purposefully avoids looking at him but can't help noticing the face mask covering that insanely handsome face and the suede gloves Kyumi is wearing. Atsumu wants to rip it all off, including his fucking perfect black suit. What are you doing here? Kyumi asks eventually. His voice is low and controlled. Atsumu snorts. How's that any of your business? Atsumu, Kyumi warns, and his tone carries an edge that demands attention, but Atsumu clicks his tongue and cuts him off. His voice is bitter. But we're nothing. Remember, you said it yourself. So why do you even care? Kyumi clenches his jaw and narrows his eyes. You know why? Oh, do I? Atsumu retorts, snapping his gaze back to Kyumi. His eyes, dark as the night sky, smolder with a fierce intensity, while Atsumu's molten gold eyes blaze with fiery defiance. Peak annoyance. I can do whatever I want, right? And right now, I kinda feel like doing Tobio-kun. Kyumi's eyes flash with anger, the intensity of his gaze enough to draw the attention of nearby fundraisers. His jaw is tensed, the sharp edge of it jutting prominently as he clenches his teeth, and Atsumu swears he can see some veins popping. His hands clench into fists at his sides and the tension radiating off him is almost palpable. But Atsumu doesn't fret. No, instead, he keeps pushing, his voice dripping with pettiness. We're nothing, right? So, you don't mind. Atsumu reaches behind the counter, grabs a bottle of whiskey, and turns to march off. He doesn't get far, though, because Kyumi's hand shoots out and he grabs his wrist. Atsumu immediately shakes off Kyumi's grip and glares at him fiercely. Piss off. No, Kyumi says firmly. Atsumu holds Kyumi's gaze for a moment, his eyes blazing with defiance, then turns and leaves, but Kyumi is close behind him. He murmurs urgently, whatever you're planning with Oikawa, Call it off. And Atsumu laughs bitterly at that. Then, he bites back. Go fuck yourself, Atsumu, bastard. Atsumu continues walking. Kyumi calls Atsumu's name again and again, his voice growing more insistent, but Atsumu keeps ignoring him. They weave through the crowd until they find themselves in an empty side room and Kyumi seizes the moment to push Atsumu against the wall. His face just inches from Atsumu's. Atsumu's breath comes in sharp bursts. His eyes are wide open. Kyumi's grip on his shoulders is firm, his eyes searching Atsumu's face for any sign of yielding. Listen to me, Kyumi pleads. Atsumu glares at him. Their faces close enough that he can see the intensity in Kyumi's eyes. Why should I? Because I'm doing this for you, asshole. Kyumi snaps his frustration boiling over. I'm trying to protect you. Fucking protect. By pushing me away. By treating me like I'm nothing. Atsumu spits back, his anger barely contained. Kyumi's grip tightens, his voice dropping to a low, fervent whisper. I'm trying to keep you safe. From Ashijima. From Tendo. From everything that could fucking hurt you. Well fuck you because the only one hurting me right now is you. Oh. Kyumi looks a little taken aback. Atsumu knows that Kyumi is aware that his actions hurt Atsumu. Hell. Kyumi does all of this on purpose. Of course. Kyumi must have thought it would be best if Atsumu just ended up hating him. The danger that he would then want to get Kyumi out of Ashijima's grasp would be practically non-existent. But it seems like hearing it now, seeing the raw pain and anger in Atsumu's eyes, it hits him differently. Yes, it seems like he's starting to realize that no matter how hard he tries to push Atsumu away, Atsumu's actions will always revolve around him, even if Atsumu can never have him. And there isn't much that Kyumi can do about this. It dawns on him. Atsumu can see it in his eyes. So, slowly, Kyumi lets go of Atsumu, and for a moment, they just stare into each other's eyes. Atsumu's still blazing with anger. Kyumi's filled with desperate confusion. What Atsumu wouldn't give to crack this shell, to break through these walls, to finally make Kyumi realize that they work better when they're together, that everything about them makes sense, that they could live in a much better world. Atsumu closes his eyes, frowns and takes a deep breath. When he opens his eyes, he purposefully avoids getting lost in the depths of Kyumi again and reaches for his phone to check if Oikawa has already contacted him and shit, he did. 20 fucking minutes ago. Text messages between Oikawa and Atsumu. Okamura is here. Jeez. He's bringing his whole gang. Get your ass out of there ASAP. Yes. Perfect. Atsumu realizes they must be trapped by now. He shifts his gaze back to Kyumi, who's still staring at him with that stupid frown on his face, and Atsumu gets weak. So fucking weak when it comes to Kyumi. His mind races because he knows that time is running out. Okamura showing up today doesn't suit Atsumu at all. But well fuck. Then he just has to reveal his plan to Kyumi while dealing with that bastard. This isn't really going according to plan. But when does it ever? Atsumu takes another deep breath, stares at the ground between them and offers a mirthless grin. Fuck. He sighs a little defeated and lets the back of his head fall against the wall with a soft thump. You're worse than Tsunerin. You know. Atsumu smiles bitterly. His eyes are dull. Then he continues. I fucking hate your guts, Kyumi. I fucking hate that you're making me feel like this. That all I can think about is you. I'm constantly mad at Rin for being so fucking stupid. For being such a coward. For hurting my brother. But I don't fucking have it in me to tell him to fuck off for good, because it would mean I have to tell you to fuck off for good too. And I can't. Kyumi, not when you have almost all of my fucking heart. Atsumu. Kyumi's voice wavers, his frustration and desperation mingling. His hands twitch at his sides, as if he wants to reach out and hold Atsumu but is holding himself back. Again. He's holding himself fucking back. Don't. Last time you told me I don't understand, but yeah, wrong. I do understand. Think I never understood it better. Kyumi holds his gaze, and his eyes are dark and intense like the night sky drawing him in. They bore into Atsumu's and search for, well, for what? An apology? A sign that Atsumu gets why he's doing this? He does. Oh. He fucking does. I'm doing this for you. Yeah. And this. Kyumi. This needs to stop. Not us, but this. Atsumu's eyes glaze over. The pain of their situation claws at him, but he pushes it down, focusing on the urgency of the moment. They will talk about this. Properly. Maybe in a few minutes. Maybe in a few hours. They will talk about this. Tonight. And this time. Atsumu makes sure everything goes right. Kyumi's gaze remains fixed on Atsumu, his onyx eyes swirling in a pool of seemingly endless concern. There's a tension in his jawline, a subtle clenching of his teeth as he stares at Atsumu and stares and stares and stares. And Atsumu knows. He senses Kyumi's silent plea beneath the surface of that stare, urging him to heed caution, to prioritize safety over recklessness. Yet, Atsumu knows there's no time for hesitation. Their window of opportunity narrows with each passing second, and he must act swiftly, even if it means defying Kayumi's unspoken worry. They'll sort it out. They always did. Somehow. Now's not the time to get all sentimental. Atsumu inhales sharply. You're gonna listen to me while I save your ass this time, right? His voice is a bit shaky and betrays the fear and adrenaline coursing through him. Kayumi frowns. Confusion etched across his features. What do you mean? His voice is a mix of worry and suspicion. His mind must be racing to catch up with Atsumu's sudden shift in tone. Remember that lad called Okamura? Atsumu's tone is light, almost teasing, but his eyes are serious, the fire in them burning bright. Kayumi's frown deepens, his eyes narrowing. Yes, why? There's a flicker of recognition in his eyes, and a hint of dread. Atsumu's smirk widens. Guess we're trapped, Omi-kun. And just as realization dawns in Kayumi's eyes, the door bursts open with a resounding crash, and a gunshot echoes through the room, aimed straight at Kayumi's head.